Boa tarde. Estamos recebendo o professor Adriana Camacho, da Universidade de Los Andes, e do nosso seminário mensal do LEPES, onde está falando hoje da nossa vida de criminalidade. Então, vai ter um trabalho ligado ao programa de consciência de renda e violência. I'd like to thank you for accepting our invite to our students and to the University of São Paulo.
Thanks so much for your invitation to know this nice place that you have here and nice people. So this paper is from the technical leaders and it's called Happily Ever After, Domestic Violence, Moving Empowerment and Stress After Receiving Conditional Cash Transfers. So the outline of my presentation is I'll first some slides about the relevance and the motivation for this work. Then we'll have a question and a conclusion precisely of this work to the literature. Then we'll see two possible theories that could happen because you never know if somebody is helpful is receiving more, so this person is going to receive more domestic violence or less domestic violence. So we will see which are theoretical approaches. And we'll see some deep review showing that the results are not so clear. Then I'm going to tell you a little bit about the background of the program, even though it's very similar to what's happening here. Like, I want you to know precisely how it's done in Colombia. Then I'm going to show you the data that I'm using. This has three sources of data, and the critical strategy and the results we have. And this paper is nice and is different from others in the literature because we can check the possible channels through which the domestic violence is happening. And some conclusion. Okay. So first of all, the relevance of this problem. 35% of women in the world are victims of domestic violence or physical or sexual abuse, and the rate in Colombia is a little bit above this international standard. This domestic violence, even though it's a violation of human rights, it also has association some other costs associated, and would be like physical and psychological health treatments that you have to give to women. We always talk about women, but it could be men as well, the ones that are suffering from domestic violence. We could relate addiction to domestic violence. People who have domestic violence are also prone to be addicted. We also have cost in labor market. If somebody has suffers from domestic violence, they might have to stop going to work to the cost for the employer and for the employee. And there has been evidence that women who are pregnant and suffer from domestic violence would have lower babies. So in general, even though if we only care about domestic violence, that's important that we need to take into account all other things that can be affected by domestic violence. So this paper studies this collateral effect because it's not something that the CCTs have in mind precisely. And this is a popular tool that has been used right now. More than 30 or 40 countries in the world have CCTs incorporated. Many of our Latin American countries have their type of CCT program, and many of them are old enough in order to know many things in terms of direct and indirect effects and short-term results. So the possible channel, so we're going to study not only if there's an effect, but how could we explain them, or how are they happening. In general, these programs are the mothers who are receiving the transfer, and this is something that it has not been, or it was not tested before when they started, but it has been tested right now in terms of the idea of females are making better decisions in terms of investing their money. There were some papers in Africa that Colômbia did where she was finding that grandmothers receiving pensions were investing more in the girls, but there was a different kind of work. That now there are two papers, one by Akresh in 2015 and Behazin in 2014, the study flow is a call for here precisely, and they are finding that giving conditional or unconditional transfers or giving to males or females don't have much effect. So in fact, the good decision about giving the money to the mother is more, or it has not been tested and could be more of a myth. So if we are not achieving a better way to put resources in the household, then what other things are we achieving from giving the money to the mother, which is the case for Colombia, and I think it's the case for Brazil. Could this be increasing gender equality? Could this be empowering females? Could this empower females? The CCTs are empowering females or not? Yeah? Okay, I did believe that before I did this paper. And I'm going to show you what happens. And would this have an effect then over domestic violence? If women are more empowered, or if there's more gender equality, then domestic violence will go down or will go up? And this is what we're going to try to answer in the paper. Okay, so what's the question that we are looking at? And the contribution. So this paper is contributing to the literature on the collateral effect of CCTs in domestic violence by using an exogenous variation of unanticipated timing of the payments. So the payments are supposed to be given every 2 months, and we are going to use that there are some problems in the administrative work, in the timing of sending the money, in checking the conditionalities, and we're going to use all that to identify exogenous shocks in terms of when the country is receiving or not receiving the money. This is going to be done at the municipal level. So a municipality will get the money all at the same time in 5 or 6 days, but they're going to get the money, like a shock of income in a certain period of the month. And we are going to look at domestic violence in general in the household. So we're going to look at the partner, at children, at elderly, and other members of the household. And this paper is going to test 4 channels. So the 4 channels that we're going to test is female empowerment, the divorce rate. If there's a higher divorce rate, because people might not be getting domestic violence just because you're divorced. If there's an increase in labor market participation, or a decrease in labor market participation, if they are substituting the income that they're getting from the transfer with hours that they're going out of the labor market. And the last one, it's a channel that we're going to call scarcity or lack of resources. Okay, so this study is using administrative data from Colombia, from the whole country. And I want to mention this is a contribution because many of the papers are using are doing experiments, and the experiments have local validity instead of external validity as what we have here. Okay, so now we're going to go into the 2 possible theories that can explain what happens if I give money to a person in a household, if domestic violence is going to increase or decrease, and the need review. Okay, so first of all, we are going to see a reduction in domestic violence if the financial resources that the woman is receiving is empowering her and it reduces violence against her. She gets money, she gets power, and that way it's costly to punish her or for her to suffer from domestic violence. There are 3 papers in the literature which show this, and in fact, I want to relate this to the developing and developed countries literature. In fact, the ones that find this reduction in domestic violence are mainly papers in the developed countries. So you give more income, and the income is equalizing the bargaining power that's there in the household, so there's less violence. But it could also increase. And this is a story of, it's called in the literature men backslash, which means that the men are maybe threaten their power. So what they do is they exert more violence into the partner. Yeah, I want to keep power, or I want to keep the money you're receiving. So then you're gonna see an increase in domestic violence. And these are other papers that argue on this side of the literature. I'm gonna go through certain papers that are more related to this one, just here in this slide. So finding a reduction. And I'm gonna concentrate on papers in Latin America. Peroa finds from the program Juntos in Peru, which is exactly the same CCT program, a reduction in physical and emotional violence. A program in Kenya, which is called Give Directly program, is reducing physical and sexual violence as well. And Hidrobo analyzes bono de desarrollo humano in Ecuador, and he finds a reduction in physical and sexual violence as well. So these papers, I'm going to anticipate that we are going to find a reduction as well. These papers are close to us in that sense. The only difference, or let's say value added that we have over them, is that we are identifying channels. The only one that identifies a channel is this one, precisely identifies the same channel as we are going to do, but it's concentrated on an experiment, really, while we are doing the whole country. So the rest of the literature has mixed results. So sometimes it increases one type of violence, it decreases the other, it depends on the characteristics of the family. So for example, Angelucci, for Oportunidades, which is the Mexican CCT, finds that there's a reduction in violence associated with the consumption of alcohol, but in a 37%, but there's an increase in households where the men have low education, married to younger women, and when women are entitled to receive a higher transfer. Yeah. So when the money is much bigger, or let's say the powers of both, like if you have a higher difference in terms of age, this has been a measure of empowerment of the household. Like the older person will have more power than the younger person. So that increase looks that it's related to low education, and that's something that we're going to find as well in our paper. Bolonis in 2013 also looks at Oportunidades, and he finds a reduction in abuse in physical abuse of 33%, but a rise in emotional violence. So there's where we say that there are mixed results. Like you could have physical abuse, or you could have psychological abuse, and in this case, one is going up, the other is going down. And Hidrobo and Bernal, with the same program that we just described, the Bono de Desarrollo Humano in Ecuador, it's finding a reduction in emotional violence for women with more than primary education, but an increase in emotional violence for women with primary education. So as you see here, the main backslash story is coming through the low income, and the reduction in domestic violence story, I don't know how I call it, like reduction theory, it's coming from the less poorer households. Yeah.
Does the literature say something about the duration and stability of the matching?
Of the marriage, for example,
yes.
how long
yes.
the marriage?
National cash transfers have the effect of that.
No, I think that's a difficult question to find in surveys, right? How long have you been in this union? So you asked about, in general, you asked, are you married or not? But these questions about union, I've searched for them at the CHS, doesn't have it, or...
Anticipating my question is the following. I see a methodological challenge here to make this question opposed, because it's always conditional in having both the men and the women living together, right? So basically, the marginal guy right before tolerate more adversities, or I mean, in order to, so it's possible in principle that the program maintain together people that otherwise would have broken up already. And this may be a sort of compounding source of increasing violence, but it's not really due to the death.
Okay, I can answer you that question. I never thought of that, but I have the regression for that question because it's one of the channels that we are looking is the rate of divorce. And we are using a panel data with a control and treatment group. Then the control group doesn't have a transfer, the treatment does have a transfer, and there's no effect of receiving the transfer in the whole period in terms of divorces, of getting more divorces. So that would answer, at least for 1 year difference, there's no, this story is not true, but could be a possible threat for the identification.
Because I have a question. Some of the literature, all these different papers ask about this emotional and physical violence questions in order to avoid the social desirability.
Okay, what I'm using here is administrative data from the forensics cases. So I'm getting the hardest cases, let's say, the ones that go to the doctor. But answering to you generally, the DHS, for example, Colombia, given that it has a big problem of domestic violence, they have a survey for 4 rounds, and it's always there. It's a separate module, and it's a module that you should answer completely separate from partner. But it has been always there, and it's a very broad and good questionnaire. So if you want to do questions about that, you can follow that questionnaire. That has, at least in Colombia, has been done for 4 or 5 rounds, I think. So this conclusion, I think I already made it right, but I want to reinforce it. Findings vary according to the household member characteristics. And I'm going to relate these to the type of household that we're going to study. Okay, so I'm going to tell you some things about the program, some background about the Familias en Acción program in Colombia. So, the name is Familias en Acción, as your goals of familia. The Colombian government introduced Familias en Acción, I call it FEA, in 2001, just after the recession in 1999. So it was kind of a program that tried to reduce poverty and to take out many households from poverty that were just in the recession of 1999. And there's a first phase of the program, and this first phase goes from 2001 to 2006. This first phase of the program goes to smaller municipalities, so municipalities with less than 100,000 inhabitants. So, and it's more rural. So in fact, and that's why I wanted to reinforce the conclusion in the last slide, which is depending on the type of household that you look at, you're going to find more or less effects. So we might be seeing more rural households and more less educated or lower socioeconomic status. So the program started in 848 municipalities out of 1,100 municipalities that Colombia has, so it could be like 70% of the municipalities. But the number of families is not as big because the municipalities are not so big. It's mainly rural, and that's the population. And by now, the program covers 2.5 million families, which is approximately like 1/5 of the country. So it's a nationwide program right now. It's a law, in fact. Anybody who has the poverty score below the threshold should get the program in any municipality of the country. It costs 0.3 or 0.4 of the GDP. And it aims at 2 things: increasing school attendance. So they are not asking you to get a certain score or to pass the course, but they are just asking to go to 80% of the classes. And it tries to improve nutrition and health by making mothers take the kids to the medical checkup and to have their vaccination card completed, so to have vaccination is complete. Something that is important for this precise paper is the payment process, because that's the way we're going to do the identification strategy in the informatics that I'm going to show you. So it's supposed to be every 2 months when you receive the payments, but payments have time and space variation, and I'm going to show you a table which shows precisely this. You should see that 100% of families receive the transfer, then 1 month 0%, then 100, then 0%. So every 2 months you should see that pattern. And I'm going to show you that that's not the case. And the payment dates are exogenous to the municipality and to the household characteristics. This is important because the one that says when are the transfers given is the central government who sends all the money, and the transfers are given according to the letter of the last name. So there's no the first who came or things like that.
So you have even within municipality region.
Within municipality you have 4 or 5 days. We're not going to use them. We're going to use the month.
Yeah, but the government gives the money out. Now let's say municipality, maybe it's your turn to pay the benefits. Then the next month is cut, or within Medellin you have some families receiving the money.
So within Medellin you have, so let's say the transfer arrives on the 22nd of February, you have to pay between the 22nd and the 26th of February. Like it takes like 4 days.
Sure, but everybody in Medellin receives in February.
Yeah.
Whereas everybody that's in Cali receives in March.
It's supposed to be that every 2 months all the municipalities should get the transfer, but they just go through stacks of municipalities. I don't know the order, the precise order of who receives first, but the transfer should be every 2 months after you start giving the first time.
What is interesting, but I mean, within the same municipality, you have families earning in 1 month and other families earning in the other,
no.
Or it's by municipality?
By municipality. Yeah. Okay, so here is the way it should look. Here you have months and you have years, so the payments should always be for all the municipalities in the country. 100% of the families should get it, so in May they got it. Then in June, almost nobody should get it, or nobody should get it, and in July, everybody should get it. This table should look precisely like this. But what I want to show you is that this table looks nothing like that, right? Like, for example, here it's 14, 78, 90%, here 319, 100 and 100. So we are gonna exploit these administrative mistakes in order to say, or to use this as a surprise moment of payments. So what I'm going to tell you now is which type of data I'm going to be using, the empirical strategy. So we have 3 sources of information. All of them are administrative data, and the last one is a survey data. So the forensics data is the one that tells me the information from, I don't know if you have something called legal medicine here, it's called the legal medicine and the forensics division. So we have there different types of crimes that appear there, which are domestic violence, suicides, sexual violence, homicides, traffic accidents, and interpersonal violence. I talk about all these. The paper is only on domestic violence, but I'm going to use all other crimes to do a placebo test. If the payments had some shock in the municipality different that increases crime in general, then I'm going to see something happening in the other crimes. But the crime is only happening in domestic violence. And for domestic violence precisely, we have intimate partner, violence toward minors, violence toward elderly, and 2 other members of the family. And there we're going to also find very straightforward results, which is we're only going to find results here, the intimate partner violence. So the second source of data is the system of information of familias en acción. This is the administrative data of all the families that entered into the program. And there we have the precise date of payment by day and the family's municipality of residence. We're not going to use this at the individual level because we're going to aggregate at the municipal level because we don't have the domestic balance by individual. We have the domestic balance by municipality. So we aggregate this information to know what proportion of families receive the transfers in a specific month in a specific municipality. And the last source of information is going to be used to check the channels. So the government did an experimental, a quasi-experimental evaluation when they started the program. So they have a baseline survey and they have a 2 follow-up survey. We're going to use only the first follow-up survey because of attrition. So they have this panel data which has treatment and control. And even though we're not testing in the same period of time, and I want to be clear about that because this baseline was in 2002 and the follow-up was in 2003 and the data on domestic balance is 2007, what we are trying to see is how is the behavior and how are things happening within these households that receive the program. So in that information, we have questions regarding the civil status, so there we can look at divorce. We have questions about if you have participated or not in the labor market, and we have information about decision taking in the household, which are always the variables that you use for empowerment. So the decision is who takes the children to the doctor when the kid is sick, who takes the children to school, who buys children's clothes, who buys food, and who decides on extra spending. This question is very nice because it also the answers are very specific. So father decides alone, mother decides alone, both decide, and other members decide. So there we're going to see if the transfer is it's in place. So the initial paper was just empowerment. When we started this evaluation, we said we want to test if the CCTs are empowering women or not. Given the results that you're going to see, we started them. Okay, so here the identification strategy is based on the dates of payments. As I told you already, the payments were not given the same one for the whole country and not delivered precisely every 2 months, sorry. So we have an unbalanced panel at the municipal level where we're going to have an equation where we're going to test if there's domestic violence so for the municipality I is going to be municipality, M is going to be month, and T is going to be year. Yeah. So we're going to see this at the municipal level variation over time, and we're going to regress this on a variable of payment. It's a dummy for payment delivered to municipality I in month M in year T. The axes are municipal controls where we include poverty, inequality, taxes, quality of education, investment in education and health. Why these last two? Because these are the ones that the program is trying to target. They need to have enough supply of education and health in order to demand those services. We also include, in case municipalities are on a different trajectory of development, for example, we'll have a municipality time trend included in our regression, as that terá T. And I don't have them here, but we are going to have then here a municipality fixed effect, a month fixed effect, and a year fixed effect. So
you can measure poverty and inequality at the municipal level.
poverty is measured. The line of poverty. No, poverty is measured by the number of people who are having the CISBEN scores.
No,
So,
if you have a source of information in Colombia that allows you to calculate poverty at a municipal level, and you have income, for instance, we
No.
don't have it in Brazil.
You have the poverty index score. So you have the CISBEN, which is the way they target subsidies. So what we have here in poverty is the proportion of households which are CISBEN level 1. So the ones that will receive all the group of transfers from the government. That's the measure of poverty that we're having for the municipalities. But I'm not sure why would that change over time. So I'm not sure.
Because my next question would be, if you have income, one thing that I'd be curious to see is whether any type of income that would go to the women would have the same effect, because in principle, if the only effect would go through income, it's income that empowers women, then it shouldn't matter whether this income comes from the CCT or from any other source, right? Whereas there may be something in the program. I mean, that's that we can. I mean, the government, for instance, is indicating something once it chooses the mother to receive the benefit, or the rules of the program. The women is aware that part of the income needs to be spent with children, and this type of.
But here in the control, we don't have any other, like the source of income would be the taxes that they're receiving, so if the municipality is richer or not.
Okay. It's just to ask you whether income, and in particular the mass of income that goes to the women in the municipality would be there, because one test would be whether there was equality in the relationship.
No, that's very important to check. And the other thing, what? Another answer to this is, okay, this income would be like free income, let's say. Another type of income would be like you work for that, you got it.
Exactly.
But I think that what's happening also here is that females are receiving the money and the man doesn't really know if she's buying organs, for example. That could be the case, right? That you get punished because you're supposed to be getting the money and you're getting it. So how could I know that you're telling me the truth about it? I would never be able to test that, but that's hidden in the back of the story.
Very
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's quite interesting in terms of incentives.
Yeah. In fact, it would better than to give the money to the husband in that case. If there's no difference in how you invest, and if he knows that the money is not arriving because he sees in the account, then it's much less costly to do it that way instead of having him going to the hospital. Okay, so this is that first equation where we're having the FEA-RP month. So we are including controls in these different columns. I'm just showing you the coefficient of interest. But what we are finding is that when there's an increase in the FEA payment, or when there's a month of payment, there's a reduction of approximately 6%, because the rate of domestic violence per 100,000 people is like 1.08. So this coefficient could be seen as a percentage. So it's approximately 6% of the domestic violence is reduced when there's a month of payments. So this is the direct, and this is the straightforward question that the paper wanted to answer. If you give money, how much are you going to reduce the condition? If you give money through conditional cash transfer, how much are you going to reduce the domestic violence by 6%? Yeah.
Why do they have these regular payments in some municipalities? But the origin of
the origin of that is, first of all, that the central government had to arrange payments for the 800 municipalities, so they couldn't do it initially. In fact, the misallocation of dates is worse in the 2007 than in the later periods. The other thing is that they need to check conditionalities. And conditionalities might not be on time, not be precisely or perfectly on time with respect to the dates. So they need to get it in order to send the whole thing of payments.
Maybe the quality of conditionality checks some municipalities can be correlated with, for instance, the reporting of the violence by women in the health services.
Yeah, we need to check if there's a systematic bad type of municipality which is not giving conditionalities at one time and which is reporting that the health services maybe by the, but that might be related to some of the controls that we are including, right? Which are poverty, which are the taxes that the municipality is receiving.
I was thinking about the quality of the government. Like
of the local government,
yes, maybe some drugs from local government quality can.
Okay, yeah.
There are exercises not free, right? All of the municipalities are there. You didn't select only, let's say,
we selected the municipalities that entered in the first phase of the program. So
but not in terms of size.
No. It's the 800 municipalities. That's why the 865 municipalities are selected. So your email regarding your concern, here you're looking within a municipality, the change, because you have municipality fixed effects. So you need to have a very varying effectiveness of the municipality in order for that to be a concern in this situation. Okay, now, given that this is the general result, I think this is interesting, but more things are much more interesting and that are telling us that the effect is really coming through the CCT. And it's precisely this. In a month where there's a payment, the intimate partner violence is reduced by 0.05. There's no change in the violence towards minors, there's no change in the violence towards elderly, and there's no change in the violence towards other family members. So this is clearly something that is happening related to the program that is given to the mother.
This means, I mean, why it's the number of occurrences?
Yeah.
Okay, because in 0 and 1.
That's why I was telling you that it's almost 1, and that's why this can be understood as a percentage point. So for minors, you have less than half of the events on domestic violence. And now, remember that I told you that the legal means that the forensics data have other types of crime. So we use those as legal tests. If there's something that the transfer is doing in general to the municipality and is related to crime and not related precisely to what is happening within the household, you would see an effect on any of the other measures of violence or of crime, and you're not seeing in any of them. So, given that we have now that there's a reduction in 6% of domestic violence, this reduction is precisely coming from the domestic violence related to the partner, and there's nothing else happening with the rest of the crime. We're going to test the channels regarding the relationship between the household. So, the first thing that could happen is that conditional cash transfer could decrease domestic violence through freedom of harm. So there are papers which find, Anderson and Warren, find that there's an increase in women's relative income of 15 to 20%, and this increases female empowerment. There could be also an improvement of the social network or knowledge of the female. Remember that she has to go to the doctor more often to take the kids, so she might be receiving more information. She could get empowered by the information she's receiving. She could have more networks because Familias en Acción females have meetings or have in general like education packages. So all of this would empower her. And we're going to test that. We could also find an increase in the divorce rate, and Braciolo has a paper where he looks at this information and he finds evidence of changes in divorce rate when there's an increase in income. There could be an increase in labor market participation as well, increasing or decreasing. We don't really know. The gold paper looks at finds an increase in participation. And the last channel, the one that we're gonna try to bring the explanation, is the scarcity or shortage of resources channel. In fact, this channel could be related to two other papers that exist. The first is Atanasio with the same data, the panel data from the FEA experiment, where he argues that Familias en Acción increases food consumption by 15% in rural areas when they receive the transfer. So precisely you could see that with that money, they do increase consumption, so they might have had a lower level of consumption given that they have less income. And the other paper that relates to scarcity or shortage of resources is a paper that I have with two other co-authors, which looks at the moment of the payments of Familias en Acción and finds that after the payments, the crime rate in the neighborhoods where the biggest number of beneficiaries of the program are, has a reduction once you get paid. And we look at a window of 7 days before, 7 days after, and what we find is that once you get payment, so let's say that the crime rate is going here, once you get paid, the crime rate is down. So this is also showing that there's a shortage, and when you receive the money, crime rate goes down, so you don't have scarcity or lack of resources in the house. So big on target. So the thing that we did, and we started, as I told you, we started with this question, is we do a seemingly unrelated regressions because we have J different equations for decisions. So which are the J equations? We have an equation for doctor decision, we have an equation for school decision, for clothes decision, food decision, all the decisions that are being answered in the questionnaire. And you put and here in this regression, what you see is if the father is deciding alone. Yeah. So we tested if the father and the mother are deciding together, and there's no differential effect. So what we are seeing is that when the father decides alone, or he's taking decisions from the mother, or from both of them, or from others in the house, that he's getting them alone. So father decides a dummy when the father is deciding. Familias en Acción FEA is going to be a dummy if the family is receiving the payment. For FF, it's a dummy for a post, so it's the first follow-up. Yeah, it's a post dummy. So this is a definitive strategy. Like in definitive strategy, we will have a treatment group, which is the FEA, and you have a pre and post period. So there you have treatment, post, treatment and post interact. This is going to be the coefficient of the definitive, which is the coefficient of interest. The matching is not perfect in terms of treatment and control groups, so you do a p-score matching and include the p-score in the equation. The characteristics were not perfectly balanced within these two groups.
Okay, but what's the extent of this work? Because I thought that the X would be inside of this work.
Yeah, that's me thinking. Yeah, because they could be linear or they could be independent. Yeah. Unless it had another, but there's no other level variation that you could include. Like if there were x's at a different level variation. Okay. The same for this. Like if you include fixed effects, it's like if you were including a fan. This is also. No, it's the same as fan. Yeah. Okay. So what we find here is for the different decisions, we are finding a coefficient, and we are putting here the coefficient of interest on the interaction term. And what we are finding precisely is very, very interesting is that like if you would say the female is empowered, you would find a negative coefficient. He's deciding less, yeah, and deciding less in general, yeah. But in fact, he is deciding more. And where is he deciding more? On things related to the program, yeah, on doctors, on who's taking the doctor when the kid is sick, and decision to go to school. So this was kind of striking to us, and we said like, okay, so females are disempowered. Could not be that. It could be that he's guaranteeing the money he's receiving in the house or something like this. But when you run the regressions for females are deciding, the coefficients are negative there. When both are deciding, the coefficient it's not significant. So it's not that some that we're deciding together are going to decide by themselves, but the power of decision is going from the female to the male, and this is at the same household level. So we have we're being able to see the household fixed effect, which is the pre and post decision for the same household. Of course, we need to keep here families that stay together.
Yeah, this should if I follow your explanation. You're working with dichotomous, a binary dependent variable, or dichotomous dependent variable. Is it 1, 2, 3? Both decides is included, or it's father decides or father doesn't decide?
So we did the dichotomies, and we did also the order and the multinomial and all the possible different variables. So the variable here is father decide.
Yeah, but father. My question is, father decides alone or father participates on the decision?
No, alone. I thought you meant if I had the 4 together, like a multivariate, for purpose of understanding the coefficients, we tested all the possible combinations and then we put the one that summarizes the result, which is the father alone is getting more decisions. But we train all the possible combinations of types of models, which would be an ordered logic, non-linear logic, and the dichotomy. Yeah.
Isn't couldn't it be seen like division of labor inside the house? Like for the mother does all the things, and after the intervention, like they started dividing.
Yeah, that's precisely the answer. But why did it happen with the program? Yeah, it's given by the program. That's what we are trying to argue. That the program, so the same household, after they receive the transfer, they arrange in terms of decision the household change. Yes. So if the arrangement is the decision of the household favor females, then you say that they are empowered. Since they didn't favor females, we cannot say that they are disempowered. But they are giving space to the male to decide on things in the household and on things precisely that are related to the program.
Yeah, I think if it were you, before I showed the chart, I would run an aggregate decision equation whether the women participates ever in each of these 5 types of decision. That is
okay.
because it's easier to see first the aggregate and then to disaggregate. I can figure, for instance, that women can be participating more on the decisions, but then it may be a positive thing because decisions regarding to doctor and school were left to the father, whereas before.
Yeah, but in fact, since you don't have a significant effect on any of these 3, I would expect that the whole decision making is also going to be negative in terms of the father deciding.
Yeah.
Positive. Yeah.
I don't know how often they decide about clothes and food versus doctor.
Okay. What you mean is that this might be very rare decisions, or so if you have a decision in general, it would be much easier. Yeah. Okay, this second, in fact, this is also something that we gain from doing the similar related regression, that we are telling the model that these are regressions which are very similar, and that the error terms on decision of clothes in a household I could be correlated with the decision of food in that household I.
By the way, is this restricted to families that have children in the school age?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, we had we have divided households which have kids less than 7 and households which have kids 7 and 18. And the effects of school are present for the 7 and older, but the effects of doctor go away, and the thing is the sample is very small because you need to have 0 to 5, you have very little. So we don't really know if the result takes due to power or what we see in the general. And it's very interesting that for the 7 or older, you see that if they don't have kids for 0 to 5, they're not messing up with the decision to go to doctor, which is really they're focused on getting the money from the program. Yeah.
On this destination for separate groups of household mother education or father education, for instance, for households where both the parents are highly educated.
The thing is that we have household mix effects. So we are controlling for, unless the mother changes
But if you have heterogeneous effects.
Heterogeneous effect. Okay, so let's say run the regression for groups of.
Yes.
You start cutting the data and you start getting less power.
But maybe you can have
you can have above the
median
median and below the
the
median. Yeah.
how the bargaining inside the household happens. I think that's quite different.
No, yeah, sure.
Different type of
And in fact, just to check and to test from the literature that if you have less education, you might have a stronger effect on power. Or this might be a net effect of 2 things, so negative for the very educated and positive for the. Yeah, that's it.
That's question. Do you consider to simply build construct a synthetic index on women participation in the decision and include it as an interaction in your structural, in your first regression, interacting with the
In the first regression where I have municipal
violence?
violence.
Yes, you have violence versus.
That's why I was telling you that the data sets are different.
Oh, okay.
So,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Okay.
Because we don't have really violence at the individual level. But the only way we can test chance is with this other source of data, which has individual level data. We are not able to link if these females are being punished or are being suffering from domestic violence or not. We're just testing the chance.
I see.
Yeah. So this was striking for me, and that's why I asked you at the beginning, do you think that she receives money, is she's gonna get empowered or not? And I think almost everybody said yes, like I did initially, and it's no weird thing. So, what about the labor market participation? So we are doing here the same thing in the regression with the day that she works or she doesn't work. She receives Familias en Acción. It's a post. I don't know why first I put FF, which is last year, as putting the post. The interaction, the beta coefficient is going to be, the real estate coefficient is going to be this one. Again, I have the same problem there that I included the X's and the P score, and they will be together. And here we have the coefficient for just receiving the dummy variable of receiving the payment, and here we have the amount of the subsidy. So, as in the previous table, we use just the dummy or the intensity of the subsidy, which is the amount of money. And we don't get any effect in a probability or a linear probability model. We don't get that they are working more or less after they start receiving. Huh?
The mean value of the variable labor force participation. It's very low for the program.
Yeah. And it might be because these are rural areas, they may be working at home, they don't consider this home. Okay, and now the divorce rate. This is precisely what I was telling you, that you cannot say that divorce is increasing or decreasing. This is the coefficient beta 3, so it's not a story of they're getting divorced, and that's why there's a reduction in domestic violence. And this last story, which is our channel, which is our preferred, and where we find results that could be translated into lower domestic violence, is going back to the same original data of Mexico domestic violence. And we're looking at, if we have domestic violence, we're going to have payments that are expected and payments, or months where payments are expected and months where payments are not expected. So we're going to call these PS, positive surprises, and P, negative payments and positive payments, something like that here. So the PS is going to be equal to 1 when the payment was delivered and the family did not expect it. So let's say they paid me May and they paid me June. Yeah, this is the one where I would say I should not get a payment. And the N is, okay, here I have the P wrong. So the N is no. So positive surprise and negative surprise, we're calling them. So the negative surprise is a month where in May they paid me, in June they didn't, in July they didn't. So that's a negative surprise month. Yeah, we're gonna put a dummy for that. So it's a non-delivery when the family was expecting the payment. And we do a regression where we include both of them, negative and positive surprises. Look at here, if we are concerned that we don't believe that the payments, that the dates of the payments are so exogenous, these are going to be surprises at the individual household level, yeah? Because here I'm not calculating in the municipality the money arrived in general or didn't arrive in general, but here the family received or didn't receive money, what they were expecting.
Determine another proportion of the households in the municipality that have a positive or negative surprise. Because your data set is in
yeah. But we get it from the individual level data and we aggregate it to the municipal data, which is the domestic violence data. Yeah. So this I is not individual, but it's municipality.
Yes. So the PS, Miami turns into a proportion variable.
Yes. It's a proportion of the households that have a positive surprise, according to the original data. Okay, so when we have a payment month, then this is the coefficient that I showed you initially. We're just going to include positive surprises in general. Positive surprises do not show a significant effect. Of course, this positive surprise has a lower mean than this payment month. Yeah, so it might be also that it has little variance. That's why we're not seeing the effect. The coefficient is going in the direction we would expect. And the negative surprise variance is increasing domestic violence by 0.13, which is huge compared to what we had before. And if we include the three of them together now, so we're having which is the month of payment, but which is the month where the municipality had a negative surprise versus a positive surprise, what we find is that the reduction in the month, so the reduction in general, given that they are receiving money, is minus 0.04, but the increase in violence due to a negative surprise. So the household expected an income shock and didn't receive it is 0.10. So it's more than double of the result, the reduction. And that's where I was telling you it might be hidden that they don't really know if it's that they are hiding the money or if it's that it's really that they didn't receive the money. Yeah? And that's why we're calling this story the stress or shortage of resources story. But if you're having a higher domestic violence rate if the amount of money in the household, so if the amount of money that you're receiving is increased, then you reduce domestic violence, but if it's negative surprises or positive surprises, you're going to be having more domestic violence due to stress and shortage of resources at home. This last slide, or two slides, show the shortage, so the negative surprise, only this coefficient, which was only like this regression, but for the different household members. What we find is precisely what we were finding before, that it's only related to intimate partner violence. And positive surprises don't have an effect. So negative do have an effect on increasing domestic violence. Positive surprises don't change domestic violence. And the last regression, I wanted to show you that it's related to the poverty level. I think it's good to check what you were saying. Since here it is a municipal variable. So what we're doing, or how we are measuring poverty, is the proportion of families beneficiaries of the Familias en Acción program in the municipality. Yeah. So if the municipality is poorer, if it has more families, I'm going to interact the payment month with the poverty level and include the poverty variable in the equation. And what we have there is that the beta 3 is going to go like this. In a payment month, the domestic violence is reduced, but in a payment month, when you have a higher proportion of households which are poor, this effect is lower. Yeah? So the marginal effect of the reduction of domestic violence due to the transfer is being offset or less attractive or less good, let's say, if you are poor municipality. I don't know how to understand this. Maybe it's more cultural, or I don't know how to understand this. That the reduction in domestic violence is not as high when you're in poor areas and in richer areas. Or maybe the domestic violence is stronger in poor areas, and those are the cases that you're getting later.
I think in poor cities, violence is in general more accepted because
Yeah, that's what I was saying about cultural. You could say that it's cultural factor.
yes, I think rules in general are more difficult to enforce, right? So I think, for instance, you didn't take it within a city, if you move to some districts here in Ribeirão Preto, I think interventions would have a second order effect on top of these organized crimes that conduct police cannot go there and control. Because it's an attenuation effect due to difficulty in enforcing rules.
But I think we've been enforcing rules in terms of I was not thinking on the police side or the justice side, but on the rules within the household. Like if there's more, I don't know how you call it, machismo, like, or if it's better, yeah, females have to get fined.
Written and unwritten rules.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, it's possible to have system data to get data of drug people that go to the hospital because they are. Maybe you can try to understand.
It's difficult to get the diagnosis to know if they're drunk or not. But we have accidents, and that's what accidents in the thing. So that's a way to get it.
The idea is to try to understand because you have more violence against the women made by the partner. The idea is to try to understand if when you have less money, the man drinks more.
I think the police has this. It's not a crime, it's a cosa contravención, which is something going against the law, but not a crime, it's not something that you could say to. And I think they're reporting to the police station. Yeah, that would be nice to see if it's a matter of. The thing is that this is at the point level. And the guy being wrong, you're going to say one or 2 days.
Video, another source of information.
Yeah, but I could try that. Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't have the knowledge doing, so he gets it.
Yesterday when I was in hospital in Sao Paulo, and there's the guy who has a paper on being angry about the results of soccer games and deciding differently on elections due to that angriness. Sounds really
It's funny, right? It's the type of thing that they get
No, it's a person who's a postdoctor now.
Okay. Because Fabio is the guy who left the book here from 6 months ago. But he works with this type
Yeah, but we were talking about this, and I told him, you need to get the differential effect of females and males, because ones are crazy about soccer and the others are not so much. And what it takes is that you are, because it's a behavioral kind of change, and what if it's not that it's, I'm mad about my soccer game, but I punished my wife, or I hit my wife and my wife, that's why I decided differently. So it's kind of linked to this thing of decisions within the household and violence. Okay, so some conclusions. The Familias en Acción payments are reducing the municipality domestic violence by 6%, and the channels, the reduction is not occurring through women's empowerment, it's not occurring through more divorces, it's not occurring through a change in labor market participation. The payment is reducing shortage in the beneficiary families, and this is reducing domestic violence. And let's say that the reduction in domestic violence is fragile and temporal, because if you're expecting only 1 month and you don't get it, you're going domestic violence rate increase by double, or offset to the double. It's not that it increases by double, but it offsets the effect by the double. And this is not a paper to say that we should continue or that we should hand some extra objective to the conditional cash transfer, but that countries need to create specific programs to address the problem, because if this is the way to do it, we're not doing it very well, given that we're very good.
But as I said, that's why I asked you. I don't think you can understand this as an evaluation of the conditional cash transfer,
No.
but instead of income. It's a sort of receiving or not receiving income. Plus, I mean, embedded in the conditional cash transfer, there are rules, there are other.
Yeah, in fact, we are using this as a non-expected effect of the conditional cash transfer. It's an income shock what we are testing, as all other papers in the literature are testing for an income shock. But the good thing about this income is that it's tied to certain things. And with those ties, we can test the channels, for example. We wouldn't be able to test, for example, the decision making, and that is driven through the CCTs if the decisions were not taken from the woman precisely from the doctor and the health service business.
But I mean, just going back to your women empowerment points, you don't have disaggregated data on consumption of the family bills.
Yes,
You do. Because
Atanasio tries to find if there's no alcohol consumption, there's no.
yes, going back to the origin of the conditional cash transfers back in the early 90s, the reason why people convinced policymakers that the money should be given to women was this old Duncan Thomas and others evidence that women satisfies, first of all, have more preferences towards expenditures for children. Second, if you control for the per capita level of the family, the proportion of the family income that goes to the women matters if we want to, for all of the expenditure items that go to the children. Like, I would start by replicating that.
Maybe that was Satanasio's paper. So he looks at, remember that I tried the lack of resources to Satanasio's paper? Where I was saying, here. So when I argue that it could be scarcity or shortage, this paper, which this is the working paper.
No, I'm talking about Duncan Thomas 1989 Journal of Human Resources paper. I mean, at that time there were no conditional cash transfers. It was only discussing bargaining power for the women related to the proportion of income that goes to the women, proportional of the family income that goes to the women, and then he interpreted what he had was a regression in which the dependent variable was expenditure with the children, controlled for per capita family income, plus proportion of the family income that comes from the women, and interpreted this second coefficient as bargaining power of the women, the influence of the women, and then carefully afterwards criticized them as sort of one of the origins of the collective household model, right? Because you had. But anyway, I think it would be interesting to see if overall, in the months that women got the payment, the general expenditure of the household with child things or doctors increased or decreased. Why? Because there is always this criticism, and I'm talking about that because I'm on the other side of constructing psychological assessments, that self-reports on who participated in the decision can always be influenced by desirability issues, the response biases, and so on. So it would be nice to see a behavioral marker with this independent variable as well.
I realized recently that there's a variable in the survey data which says, did you receive the payment in this? So, in which month did you receive the payment? The survey data. Because remember that I'm using the payment month or not payment month on a municipal level. So I could try to check if females that are in the treatment group consume much more than females that are in the treatment group and did not receive the treatment that month.
What is the overall?
Because in the overall, that's the answer of the message. They are treatment families after they receive the transfer are increasing the consumption, the food consumption by 50%. So precisely what, and that's why I was taking you to this point. Precisely, you make me think that I'm using the evidence on African CCTs and conditional to decide on how are you spending the money, but Africa is a completely different context from Latin America in terms of needs, say. So maybe I should not go to, I shouldn't argue that I'm not sure if females in Colombia are deciding more on better investments per kids or not, but go and test it out in this area.
Yes. Well, see, I think the topic is instead of using a self-reported answer on did I participate or not in that decision, to use the proportion of the overall family spent in items that women value more than men. This is the months that.
Yeah. So this is also done there, but not dividing by the amount of payment or not. That's what I could do new. But for example, they are looking if there's more consumption in alcohol and cigarettes. And there's no, yeah. But I don't know. But they're not testing this payment on payment. In fact, we looked at many things to try to check the empowerment story. We looked at things that they were consuming, that males were consuming in the household. And I found something which is striking to me. I don't know how to find it, and I never said, never talked about this result, but it's, I don't find changes in most of little items, and we were checking for use of contraceptives. So I was thinking females are more empowered if they are using more contraceptives. There's no change in their use of contraceptives, but there's less consumption in condoms, which was really striking because it seems that the whole story of CCT is increasing fertility. And if males are so into, I'm getting this money, and if they want to get kids, we're getting the money, then that's pretty bad.
So
but it kind of separates from this big thing. I was thinking of it, something for people, not for men.
And there is something about fertility in the intervention design in Colombia. Like here, the limit is 3, it's proportional to.
It had 7 or 8 years where there was no limit. So, and I had a student who did a thesis on this, and she finds no effect on adolescent pregnancies, because the adolescent pregnancy effect would go on both sides, right? Like if you get pregnant, you might stop going to school, but if you get pregnant, you might get money from child, so you don't know what you're gonna get there. But for females, you're gonna get an increase in fertility if there's an incentive for that. I told her as well what we were dividing households here, less than 7, more than 7. I told her divide that and try to find if the fertility decision is going through the households which don't have it. Because if you do have a kid on that group, for an additional kid you're not going to get more money. It's fixed according to the group. While the education one is per child. And the effect of fertility is happening in that group of households. The households which don't have kids and would gain from the it's amazing. With the same pattern. Okay, so I was in the conclusion and I was done. So thanks so much. I don't have any other questions. Yes.
Thank you very much.
According to your data, does the man take more responsibility? Eu e Batatinha.
Pode mais machucar. E adorarei.
We're gonna share.
Nem ele pode deixar pra esse
Não te larga
Vamos.